everyone, today I'm talking you through Nikon's new 300mm f4 lens. I got to play with it at CES, I've got sample images to show you, let's have a look. Okay, so first off, I didn't film everything on the floor. I'm filming some of this back in my pad in Vegas after the show, but I can tell you the lens feels really nice and well balanced. If you're using any of the other prime 2.8 lenses like the 24-70, it'll be really familiar to you in terms of the build quality overall. The balance of the lens is really good. Let me talk you through a couple of the specs. So it's got 10 groups of elements with 16 elements in total. That's fairly complex, but for like a big prime like that, not too complex. It's nanocrystal coated, it's got an ED element, and it's got phase Fresnel technology. Now, phase Fresnel basically means, as I understand it, that there's a special lens inside and a special element inside the lens that has concentric circles, which does a couple of things. One, it more effectively channels light, which means you can have a less complex and a smaller design overall lens, which is why this one is really surprisingly small, and it's meant to fix chromatic aberrations. For all the tech people here who want a more in-depth definition, yeah, good luck with that, just pause it maybe. What I can tell you though, this guy has 9 rounded aperture blades, so it's up there with the best of the Nikon ones. It's also a 77mm front filter thread like the 24-70 and the 70-200, so that's really handy. A couple of things that people are worried about though. One, I've heard a lot of people saying that it's way overpriced, and two, that partly again about the price, but that I think it's stupid that it doesn't come with the tripod collar as standard. If you want it, you have to buy it extra. A couple of things to point out to you about that. It's selling for just under $2,000 and it's coming in at 755 grams. Okay? The 14-24 also sells for $2,000 and it's a third heavier at a full kilogram. So think about that. It's lighter, a third lighter than the 14-24. And the 24-70 is about $100 cheaper, fair enough, but it's also about 150 grams heavier at 900 grams versus 755. And when you have this one zoomed all the way out, the lens extends. Take a look at this shot. The 300mm and the 24-70 are pretty much the same length. And given that it's lighter, I think it's very unlikely that you're going to want a tripod collar. Tripod collars when you've got a really heavy lens that's heavier than your camera body, so then you can put the tripod onto the lens and then the camera is sitting unsupported. Given that this is lighter than either of these two lenses, which no one would ever think of putting a tripod collar on, I don't think it's a big issue. The other thing is, some people are like, well, why isn't it a 2.8? Well, they have a 300 2.8 and it's 3 or 4 times more expensive and it's absolutely huge. The point of this one is that it's so small. So first of all, let's take a look at some shots from the floor of CES. Now, these were taken with the D750 and they're at high ISO, so we can't exactly be comparing sharpness or that kind of thing. More what we're going to be looking at is how it blurs out the background. If you've never been to a trade show floor, you have to give some leeway here. This is all really tight, cramped conditions. This is not like on a sporting field where you might have 5 or 10 feet between people. So there, you look at the people in the background, they are softening out quite well. Here's separating him out from the background, nice. Here the people were further back and it's really softened it out, again here on this guy. These are all just grab shots in the 20 seconds I had with the lens. And overall, I think the detail's doing quite well. You know, don't get hooked in on sharpness here because these were taken at such high ISO, but going in on a crop in on this guy's hair, you can see even though that there's, you know, aberrations coming in from the high ISO, there is fine hair detail there. I think this is going to prove to be a really good sharp lens once you're out in good shooting conditions. But as you can see on that last one there with the crop in on the hair, and then here with cropping in on the text to 100% and then 200%, there is good detail in there. It's hard to see because the D750 is struggling at such high ISOs, but the detail is there. Most of those shots were shot between 5600 and 10,000 ISO, and that's the trade-off you have to think about. If you're shooting in low lights, f4 to f2.8 is a full stop. That means you're going to be shooting, all other things equal, at double the ISO. That could be a deal breaker depending on how you shoot and what ISO you're comfortable shooting with. In terms of usability, they claimed 4.5 stops of vibration reduction. Look, I was happy hand holding it at around 200th of a second. I didn't try it way lower than that. and I felt the balance and ergonomics overall were really good. The focus was good even in those low light situations. I was impressed by it. Coming back to the aperture issue though, you want to keep in mind in those shots the background was nicely separated out. So if that's the kind of thing you're going for, maybe f4 will do it for you. Let's take a look at this online calculator. First of all, let's choose a full frame camera. We'll go for the 5D. And then let's go to, let's say we were shooting at 200mm on a 70-200 f2.8. f2.8 and we're 10 feet away. So there you can see our total depth of field is 0.12 feet. Not very much, so we'd have a really nice blurred out background there. Now what if we keep everything the same, but we took off our 70-200 2.8 and put on our 300mm f4, still 10 feet away. Now the total depth of field is 0.7, down from 0.12. So at 0.7, you know, we have a lesser amount of depth of field, so in theory the outer focus areas are going to be even softer. But our frame will have changed, we'll be a lot closer. So what happens if we then back up that extra 50% to 15 feet away? 300mm but 15 feet away gives you the same field of view as 200mm as 10 feet away. Well, there you can see it's jumped up to 0.17. So instead of being 0.05 less depth of field, it's now 0.05 more depth of field. You can see it's still not a big difference, and you really are getting a small depth of field that's going to blur out your foreground and background. So, if you want to get in closer, the 300 is a good option. If you want to blur out the background, it's still a good option, but maybe not quite as good as the 70-200. The main thing with the prime is you need to know, does 300 really suit you? If you've been using a 70-300, for example, a cheaper zoom, and you think the 300 prime would be great for you, make sure you go and check what number of shots you actually shoot at the 300mm end. If you find you're always shooting at around 200 to 220, no point in getting the 300. You may as well get a shorter one, because that may be just too long for the way you like to shoot. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please click to like and subscribe. I do have more videos coming from the floor of CES, and please jump over to mattgranger.com. Lots of stuff going on there. You can also check out my video guides, Take Control of the Light, and my Intimate Nude Portraiture Workshop series. Thanks everyone. I'll see you soon.